Ми це робимо в перший раз, тому якщо будуть якісь технічні проблеми, то наступного разу ми виправимося. Доброго вечора всім. Ми раді вас бачити. Перше, що хочу сказати, що вся розмова буде записана, тому якщо хтось не хоче бути на камері, будь ласка, вимкніть відео. Якщо ви захочете раптом щось спитати чи сказати, ви всі зам'ючені, тобто вас не чутно, щоб себе розм'ютити, ви можете або натиснути пробіл, поки ви натискаєте пробіл, ви можете говорити, або у правому куточку зверху можна натиснути значок мікрофончику, і ви теж зможете говорити. Це таке практичні деталі. Якщо перейти до діла, сьогодні перша відкрита дискусія Холабуди. Про Холабуду ми розкажемо трохи пізніше, і ми зібралися і вирішили у цей час, коли ми всі вдома, поговорити про теми, які ми вважаємо цікавими у сфері дизайну, архітектури та мистецтва, які ми вважаємо цікавими та актуальними, і ми вирішили запрошувати людей, які знаються на цих темах. Ми довго думали, чи робити просто стрім, але вирішили, що набагато крутіше буде, і це відповідає логіці Холабуди. Холабуда – це те, що об'єднує нас всіх під одним дахом, що буде набагато крутіше, щоб ми всі могли говорити і ділитися враженнями та задавати питання. Тому сьогодні ми запросили Діого Ріналді, і тема нашої сьогоднішньої розмови – Open Design. Але для початку я хочу попросити Андрія Батіна, щоб він взагалі розказав, що таке Холабуда і про що це взагалі все. Що і про що. Після цього, після Андрія, Роберт розкаже про напрацювання Холабуди, а потім я і Діого, ми поговоримо трохи про поняття Open Design Movement, та після цього ми зможемо задавати питання та обговорити це все. Так як Діого з Бразилії, то сьогоднішня дискусія буде англійською. Наразі все, тому я передаю слово Андрію.
Так, мене так чути, так?
Чути.
Вас не чути. Тоді я шерю свій скрін, в мене є невеличка презентація. Так, я розповім, з чого це все почалося, що ми робимо зараз, дуже коротко, щоб окунутися понирити у контекст, так буде зрозуміліше і буде зрозуміліше, які питання готувати і як краще цю дискусію нам вибудовувати. Так, звично. Окей. Видно, так?
Видно.
Окей, ця історія, вона публічно почалась у лютому цього року, коли ми у просторі Urban Space 500 презентували ініціативу. Тут, до речі, ми запросили Рому. Рома тут, привіт ще раз, як такого майстра і гаранта та експерта з кругового дизайну, щоб те, що ми називали круговим дизайном, воно дійсно відповідало цим принципам і було круговим дизайном. Також тут був Саша Кучерявий, він, і зараз він у спільноті, зараз його нема, але до нього можна звертатись, він може допомагати з питань щодо екологічного будівництва, він робить екоактивні будинки та знає, як їх правильно створювати та сертифікувати. Ось, але перед тим, як я розповім, що відбулося після цього, декілька слів про те, взагалі, що це таке Холабуда і яка концепція цієї Холабуди. І, щоб було зрозуміліше, як це все вибудовувати, ми хотіли відштовхнутися від якоїсь проблеми, яка, по-перше, зрозуміла, по-друге, актуальна та непокоїть усіх. І, Diogo, I have a transcript for you in English, so you could read about what I...
Thank you.
І ця проблема, вона, так, зрозуміло, це довкілля та зміни клімату. І декілька простих прикладів, що це про Київ, що річки у нас майже всі забруднені, купатися неможливо. Майже кожного року є повені, які створюють такі потопи, інфраструктура стандартна вже не справляється. Дихати нам нічим. І на першій презентації я ці всі проблеми ще підкріпляв такими світовими прикладами, показував, що там Австралія палає, льодовики тануть, Венецію затопила, Грета щось там розповідає, Портхаб знімає відео на підтримку. Але зараз настали такі часи, що, в принципі, ми всі, особливо ось хто в Києві нещодавно був, зрозуміли, що ця проблема, вона вже наступила, і вирішувати треба вже прямо зараз, і починати щось робити треба прямо зараз. І наша місія, вона звучить так, що нам треба створити міський простір, який одночасно, і це важливо, що прямо одночасно, має покращувати життя та існування людей та мати позитивний вплив на довкілля. Тобто тут не так, що або, а воно має працювати і. Тут не може бути так, що нам треба там трішки краще жити і мати можливість ближче паркувати машину біля будинку, і воно негативно на довкілля впливає. І це не значить про те, що нам там треба повернутися всі у мазанки, щоб жити знову в гармонії з природою. Тобто воно має бути і так, і так. І з референсами ми звернулися до сталих самодостатніх спільнот і кварталів. Це місця, де можна вирощувати локальну їжу, там, де архітектура побудована з локальних чи перероблених матеріалів, там, де поєднані різні функції, там, де базово можна задовільнити різні потреби. Ясно, що тут там умовно оперного театру не буде, але тут можна жити, можна працювати, можна поїсти, є доступ до культури, до навчання, до якихось базових потреб. Доступ має бути. І, знову ж таки, це і про те, що і людське життя покращується, і одночасно це приносить позитивно впливає на довкілля. І ми розробили такий підхід з 3 кроків, що, по-перше, нам треба створити спільноту в лапках постачальників, продуктів, сервісів, практик, які покращують життя. Тобто це вони можуть стосуватися безпосередньо цієї теми, там альтернативна енергетика, компостування, пермакультура, будь-що. А можливо, якщо умовно хтось варить каву, але він поділяє ці цінності, окей, він може також долучатися до цієї спільноти. Далі інтегрувати цю спільноту, результати їхньої діяльності за принципом кругового дизайну. Це, якщо хтось компостує, це те, що компостується, воно може піти на город, на ферму, далі з цієї ферми овочі підуть на кафе, а до того кафе прийдуть і поїдять ті, хто компостує. Тобто ось поєднувати за круговими принципами результати діяльності ось цієї спільноти. І це має стати, поки що, напевно, неформальною такою лабораторією, коли всі результати, які ми напрацьовуємо, всі практики, ми про них розповідаємо, викладаємо в відкритий доступ. Нам ми за те, щоб цим користувалися і інші учасники. А якщо хтось вже щось знає, ми чекаємо його до нас, нехай приходять і розповідають, як це що і як вони роблять. І назвали ми цю історію Холабудою. Я намагався описати для Діого, що це таке. But Diogo, I can't find the world, and I collect little collage. What about Holabuda? І тут треба пояснити, що насправді ми не збираємося робити ось таку штуку, але є важливі речі, які варто взяти та переосмислити, та я навіть не знаю, як це правильно назвати, чи принципи, чи цінності, але це ось референс Холабуди, він дуже важливий, тому що, по-перше, це про те, що ми змінюємо та адаптуємо простір під себе, тобто це про якусь нашу активну позицію, коли ми простір формуємо, а не тільки його пасивно споживаємо. Це про те, що це ми робимо разом. Я ось не знаю, як в кого, але ми Холабуду постійно робили разом. І це дуже важливо, це про соціальні зв'язки, це про кооперацію, це коли можна щось значуще зробити разом, а поодинці або неможливо, або дуже важко. І ну, це такий мій пункт, якщо, напевно, для мене найважливіше, це те, що ми маємо робити з задоволенням, це має приносити нам задоволення, бо зараз, ну, і у мене, я думаю, що у всіх є такі моменти, коли робиш і думаєш, блін, а що я таке роблю, навіщо воно взагалі мені потрібно, щось я від цього взагалі ніяк не кайфую. А хочеться, щоб, ну, ось це відчуття повернулося, коли ти, ну, робиш цю халабуду і, в принципі, найкращого і найцікавішого немає, а це ще якусь користь приносить, ми вирішуємо глобальне питання зміну клімату. Ось, і вирішили ми розпочати цю історію з модульної конструкції. Про модулі детальніше після мене Роберт розповість. Я розкажу, чому це важливо і чому ми, власне, почали проєкт з розробки концепції і далі проєкту модулів. Бо, по-перше, модулі, вони дозволяють одразу змінювати простір доволі швидко, створюючи необхідну інфраструктуру. Вже є місце, де спільнота може збиратися, вже є місце, де вона може щось обговорювати, можуть відбуватися якісь презентації, лекції. Тобто зараз ми зібрались у Zoom. Було б прикольно, якби в нас був схожий простір, де ми могли б фізично збиратися, спілкуватися і працювати над проєктом. Так, і якась інфраструктура у публічному просторі, вона також може бути розроблена за модульними принципами. Швидко зібралася, розібралася. Далі, що створення цього модулю – це якраз один із способів побудови ком'юніті, бо ми його робимо разом. Хтось архітектор, хтось дизайнер, хтось виробник, хтось технолог, хтось там ще. І ми, збираючись разом, ну, по-перше, це і фізично легше робити разом, коли багато людей працюють над модулями. А по-друге, ми тут можемо інтегрувати якраз якісь практики, продукти, технології один одного. Хтось там займається сонячною енергетикою, хтось пермакультурою, хтось там за допомогою рослин очищує ґрунти, хтось розуміється на зелених крівлях. І це такий спосіб разом щось роблячи, утворювати якраз ком'юніті, бо найкращі стосунки, вони якраз виникають при створенні, при спільному створенні. І третій пункт – це модульність, вона якраз дозволяє бути адаптивним, дозволяє масштабуватися, дозволяє збиратися, розбиратися, переміщати місцями, і додавати інші. Якщо от ми створимо якийсь там умовно ось цей еко-модуль і інтегруємо туди багато напрацювань, ця модульність, вона якраз нам дозволить масштабувати створену цінність. І, ну, це до того, що швидко можна поставити. Зібрали, розібрали, відходів майже немає. Можемо наворачувати багато модулів в одному просторі. Можна створити типологію, коли ми починаємо з одного модуля, а далі зліва направо переходимо до якоїсь навіть квартальної забудови. І, ну, є навіть вже приклади, коли хмарочоси Marriott в Нью-Йорку будує з цих модулів. Тобто, про що я казав, якщо ми створюємо модуль, який дає цю цінність та вирішує питання екологічного розвитку, то ми можемо з них вже якісь більші форми створювати. І, власне, до цього напрямку роботи почали долучатись люди. Вони в нас тут всі є зараз. Це Михайло, він архітектор. По-перше, працює продуктовим дизайнером в The Good Plastic Company, тобто точно поділяє наші цінності. По-друге, в нього є проекти з створення модульних конструкцій, і, ну, я думаю, що він долучився, тому що йому персонально цікаво, ну, і для Holabuda це корисно, бо є люди, яким цікаво цим займатися, і вони на цьому розуміються. Потім другою людиною, ну, це майже одночасно відбулося, долучився Роберт, і він якраз має він ще буде розповідати, тому якщо я щось тут не так скажу, він мене виправить. Він створює, в нього є студентський проєкт якраз з модульних конструкцій, ось декілька візуалізацій. Також долучилася Настя. З Настю цікаво, бо в неї є проєкт кубу. Він створений для того, щоб можна було швидко, тактично утворювати місця для спілкування, для комунікації, створюючи відповідну інфраструктуру. Вони легко збираються, розбираються, монтуються, і ми домовились разом, що ось і наша місія, наші цінності, наш підхід. Є вже створений проєкт, бо вона тут трохи далі пішла за нас, те, що в нас було. І зараз ось ми всі разом розробляємо цей проєкт, щоб це, ну, були використані і напрацювання кубу, і воно було в логіці Holabudy, в принципі, наче виходить, скоро презентуємо. Ось, далі долучились Назар з Дашою, і в нас тут утворився другий напрямок розвитку нашої спільноти. І Даші з Назаром, так як вони не в Україні, а в Нідерландах, їм було цікаво допомогти у розвитку цього проєкту, створивши те, що відбувається зараз, такий простір, де ми спілкуємося, де ми обмінюємося досвідом, де ми щось обговорюємо, такий простір обміну досвідом, напевно, правильніше сказати так. Даш, ти мене, якщо щось не так, також виправляй. І ось ця подія, вона якраз відбувається в рамках ось цього напрямку. І буквально декілька слів. Ми його також розробили за принципами кругового дизайну. І, здається, що ми придумали, будемо дивитися, як поєднати проєктні напрацювання з цим простором, з обміну досвідом. Бо, з одної сторони, коли ми працюємо, в нас утворюються якісь матеріали, якийсь контент, ми щось аналізуємо, в нас є напрацювання, і ці напрацювання ми вже можемо використовувати, вони не перетворюються у непотрібне сміття, вони перетворюються у цінний ресурс, коли, ось як зараз я розповідаю, як Роберт буде розповідати про модулі, ми можемо використовувати це як контент на наших зустрічах, обговорювати, ділитися, можливо, комусь це знадобиться, можливо, хтось буде також якось це застосовувати у власних проєктах. З іншого боку, якщо нам треба щось обговорити і отримати якісь знання для проєктної діяльності, чи просто там розширити рамки, ми можемо запрошувати цікавих для нас людей, як сьогодні Діого, спілкуватися з ними і використовувати цей досвід, ці контакти, які будуть з'являтися. Хтось прийшов, узнав, ага, є Діого, а є там, хто модулями займається, а хтось там альтернативною енергетикою. Клас, давайте робити разом. Тобто те, що зараз ми обговорюємо, ось цей досвід, ми можемо використовувати у проєктній нашій діяльності. І, що також важливо, всі ці знання, цей досвід ми будемо використовувати повторно, що, здається, також дуже екологічно. Ми будемо фіксувати всі ці матеріали. Даша казала, що ми записуємо відео, ми його будемо викладати, ми будемо робити транскрипцію, будемо писати короткі звіти в групу, тобто всі ці знання напрацювання ми зможемо використати і не тільки ми повторно. Я тут, напевно, що вже дуже трошки затягнув. Додам, що в нас є група, і в групі є трошки більше, тому якщо у вас там немає, ви можете туди додаватись, і там є більше інформації щодо проєкту. І є така адреса, зараз вона веде на форму, якщо вам якось відгукується, і ви розумієте, що вам цікаво це робити з нами, можете писати, будемо знайомитись, давайте робити це разом. Так, напевно, в мене вже все. Дякую.
Дякую, Андрій. Зараз тоді ми попросимо Роберта розказати про шляхи і кроки на меті створення фізичного простору Holabudy.
Так, Роберт, ми тебе не чуємо, а я зараз зам'ючусь.
Але ми тебе бачимо.
А ніхто так не чує?
Так, зараз вже працює, правильно? Вибачте. Excuse me, do you hear me now, or I'm sorry?
Yes, we do.
Yes, okay, so I would like to thank Andrei for presenting the mission and the team. Also, I would like to thank Diogo for joining us and the team for launching the event. I will quickly cover on the main aim of the design team and the participants of the project, and also mention how we all met. So the first stage was the collection of references, pretty much the research stage, like every project should have in the beginning. So Andrei launched this open call on Facebook, and I joined with the references I knew and the projects I created, as well as Anastasia and Mick. And our main aim is to actually build a similar network of collaborative designers and activists and create this inclusive and synergical community that welcomes everyone, that uses this open call to absorb ideas, initiatives, and hopefully synthesize them into something actually helpful for the world, and as Andrew mentioned, for ecological design and just to making our lives better. So we would not to only create the this abstract network of people, but also invite them to work within a certain framework of a designed structural technology. Yeah, I would rather call it technology to actually offer people to join our modular grid that we'll be developing. And I will come back to references that were collected and analyzed. Also mentioning that the modular structures in general are able to be integrated in the strategies on any scale, from urban planning, urban design, like this one, the design of the entire neighborhood, to smaller settlements or buildings, or modularity within certain buildings, all the way to the product design and furniture and interior design. Therefore, our own story begins vice versa from the small scale product design and the Cube project that you've seen in Andre's presentation. So this is a teaser of our story that we're working on. You will see it launched a little bit later. But the progress of Holabuda so far will begin from designing certain furniture objects within the same grid modular framework, occupying them with our own team and community, and welcoming everyone to join, and hopefully having it progress and adapt to different sites and situations, and evolve as a community, or even a part of the urban tissue of Kiev city or anywhere else. So this is the example of the furniture, the modular bench designed by Anastasia in the project. And this is the first prototype, the first element that we're launching on our site. And by the way, how we have a hypothesis that the site of an abandoned factory in Kiev will become the first place where we would apply our grid and start the community, because the office is located there, and we do have a possibility to use the land temporarily to design our modular and flexible structures in there in Kiev. I think we'll now proceed to the presentation on open design, and later we'll ask questions regarding the project. And thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Robert, very much. So now the plan was to, as we talk about open design movement, I wanted to make a couple of slides, couple of words, introduction to what it is. But the thing is that it was quite stupid of me. I made this part in English, because it was supposed to be like an English speaking lecture, but most of us are Ukrainian speakers. But okay, those who won't understand it in English, I can make a Ukrainian copy for you. So it would be in English. So now I would share my screen. Yeah, do you see it? Okay, a brief overview, but okay. So super briefly about what open design movement is. So the whole notion of open approach is rooted and came to us from open source and free software movement. The type of open source software is characterized by permission to anyone to use, study, modify, distribute the source code for any kind of purpose. And this phenomenon of open source has long been limited only to the software industry. However, due to global digitalization, as well as spread of efficient and low-cost internet access, it has spread all over other industry fields. And now it's like, you name it, open data, open art and culture, open education, open science, open licenses, open hardware, as well as open design. So the notion of open design, as far as I understand it, stands on two pillars. One pillar is the power of the crowds. So basically, one single contribution can bring to huge results. And the other one is standing on the shoulders of the giants. Basically, there is also an expression, good designers borrow great designers, which means that we don't need to reinvent the bicycle and the wheel each time. We can just get what we have and just add something on the top. Then the definition of open design came to us in late 90s, and then it was evolved later. This one comes from 2011, and it says open design is design whose makers allow its free distribution and modification of it. And just to give some examples, so we have a brief overview what it is. RepRap is a company that started to produce 3D printers, which basically can print 3D printers. So by having this 3D printer, you can make your own 3D printer to then later print whatever you want. And it was very successful, and more than, I guess, 400 different modifications of these printers were made for different kind of purposes. And another one, you all probably know it, is Arduino. Arduino is an open source company and community that designs and manufactures single board microcontrollers and also kits to build any kind of digital devices, permitting the manufacture of Arduino boards and software distributed and manufactured by anyone. So what you can do with Arduino, I took just some random images from the Arduino community. For example, you can use it to make shoelaces that are tightened up on their own, or you can make Arduino, something to probably take care of your garden, or a scene plant. I don't know really why you need a scene plant, but just to show what it can do. Or my favorite one is make a fire-breathing pony. So that's all possible with help of Arduino. But it can also be controversial, because what you see on this image is a gun, which is called Liberator, and it was launched by a company which is ran by Cody Wilson, and it's called Defense Distributed. And it's a first in the world 3D printed gun, so which anyone can basically 3D print it. And it uses only one not 3D printed component, which is a simple metal nail. So it takes only 20 hours to print it, and you can buy, so the idea was that you can either download the parts and print it yourself, or you can buy it assembled on 80%, which basically removes all the legal procedures that one needs to make when getting or buying a gun. And in that category, it moves to this kind of a ghost gun. So, but after creating it, it was kind of a niche thing, because the technology came in front of the law, and no one actually knew what to do it. So when he developed it, he, on a private range, he made a shot. So this is actually the first ever printed that he tested. And then he launched the STL files that could be 3D printed open source for the open source. And within 2 days, 10,000 copies were downloaded. After 2 days, it was shot by the government. And then I guess in 2018, Diogo, you can, if I'm wrong, you can correct me. In 2018, they managed to talk with the government that, okay, we can sell it. But then afterwards, Trump actually said that selling of it doesn't make sense. It should be on open source. And actually, I don't know what in which status it is now. But apparently, a lot of STL files are on some pirate networks from which you could still download it. But it became a huge artifact and a manifesto. And now this image shows it exposed in Victoria and Albert Museum in London, because actually it shows on one hand how powerful 3D printing technologies can be, but on the other hand, it also shows the whole danger of it, and also shows the downsides of open design. So basically, my relationship to open design started when in 2015, when I came to Design Academy Eindhoven, and it was our first topic. So we were supposed to, so we were a group of, I guess, 30 people, around 30 people, and we were divided in two groups. So the first group was introduced to the concept of open design, and we were supposed to create our own interpretation or contribution to that. And the second group was completely opposite. They were given a limitation by a plastic tube, and they were supposed just to experiment with plastic tubes. And the reference was Theo Jansen, which you can see on the right part of the screen on the top. So I was super upset because when I came there, I was really into model making, and I really wanted to be in group number 2. Group number 1 was a bit a disaster for me because I didn't believe in open design movement at all. But yeah, so at that time, what I did, I was interested into scale, and I was curious how one shape can range from a tiny scale to a huge scale, and to which extent it can go, and which kind of shapes can facilitate different functions and which shapes cannot. So I created a concept, and I made a website, the idea of which was to create a whole collection of, as I called them, multifunctional units, quite abstract forms that later someone can choose a certain abstract movement and then to give a function to it. And this function can be any and in any scale. So starting from jewelry and ending up in architecture. So for example, what you can see if you go to the website, you see a shape, and you can give any kind of function to that. Then you contribute your function in any form you do it. It can be a drawing or a model or a sketch to the community, and then others can use your idea, your design, your model, and actually produce it locally. Yeah. So what to show you? So this was one of the examples, and I sent it to many people, and these are some of the outcomes that came. So it can be like anything. It turned out to be a very useful exercise in thinking what a shape can be and which functions it could host. And then so this same shape could be a house, which could totally be assembled, but it also could be a piece of jewelry that could be 3D printed. So, and in any kind of form it could be, a user could use it. But Design Academy actually got a super terrible feedback about it. I guess I don't really remember what was it, but I think it was that it's not provocative enough. And at that time I was really sensible, and I thought, okay, open design, open source is not really for me. So I turned into a completely different direction. But the more time goes, the more I actually come back to it. So, but we can talk about it later. And today I would like to, I'm super happy to introduce you to Diogo, who I met in Design Academy and who was actually in the same group with me, in group number 1. And I think, Diogo, tell me if I'm wrong, that was the point when your journey with open design movement started, right?
Yep, exactly.
So,
and I'm going to talk about it on my presentation.
Exactly.
Yeah, thank you for doing the base layer of it.
So yeah, I give now a word to Diogo, and yeah, Diogo, how do you feel for being interrupted if someone suddenly has a question in between?
Not at all. Not at all. I was gonna say as well. Like, if you feel, just say break, and I'll stop. You know, just so I know, because my presentation, this one comes from a presentation that Dasha saw at the Rinaldi Academy in Amsterdam, and I took it and I kind of used it the same presentation, but I rewrote some things. So if you don't mind, since it's online as well, I'm gonna read the presentation. So I hope that so that I don't forget, you know, like the whole line of story. I'm gonna share my screen now, right?
Yeah, please.
Oops, just a second. Zoom is full of yeah, okay. Okay. Yeah, can you guys see it?
Yes, perfect. We see it.
Great, great. Also, like I have a tendency to speak fast, and I know that English might not be the, you know, like the first language for some of you. So I'll try to speak slowly and fine so that it's easier. But if you don't understand something as well, I can always say it again. Okay, just say break, and I'll repeat.
Okay.
So hello, everybody. Thank you for inviting me. I hope you're all healthy and emotionally connected with yourselves and with your loved ones during this time. Thank you for the invitation and the openness, and a special thanks to the always inspiring Dasha for connecting us today. This will take around 40 minutes, this presentation, so please get comfortable in your own space, and also please feel free to interrupt me. I would like to start this presentation by saying that I intended this to be a presentation of projects, both that I participated on, as well as projects that inspire or instigate me somehow. This is a small representation of it, to be honest. It is also meant to open up topics for discussion, and by saying that, I would like to reinforce the idea that this talk is about the questions and discussions that it triggers. Since it seems like I'm going to talk for a while, please feel free to interrupt me at any time. I have no problem whatsoever being interrupted, okay? Don't be shy, please. I'm deeply interested in learning with you, not from you. I don't want to be a professor either. So please, this is about horizontality as well. Again, it would be nice if you can take notes about questions and references that you have so we can talk about them at the end. I am by no means a so-called expert in open source or open design. I have been researching and practicing it for the past 5 years since I arrived in the Netherlands for a master in social design at the Design Academy Eindhoven. My background and practice has been labeled through the discourse of the design field. However, I do believe there is an undefinable line between art and design nowadays that allows for a lot of the topics to be relevant in the expanded field. I hope that at the end of this experience today, we all leave with some sort of meaningful time. Ever since my bachelor's, I have always questioned methodologies that are so often linked to the idea of the genius in design. My creative manifestation has always seen more beauty in a shared context. And I find the underlying so-called guides of open source to be very meaningful to me. These guides are often fluid and cater to specific focus. This is why I would like to start this presentation with this image from the Open Source Design Manifesto, with the one you see in front of you, where it points out a few important qualities. First one, to find opportunities to design in the open. I think this is great to already question ourselves about what open means. Does it mean lack of copyright? Does it focus on visibility? Or does it mean about shared experiences? The second says to share, whether good or bad. Communicating the experience, whether successful or not, by your own standards is a key part. By making it public, others can relate, and better yet, learn with you. Third, define time to meaningful projects. I believe this is direct and resonates on all of us, right? We all want to do a meaningful project. To openly participate in discussions. I think this talks about education as well. And education is a social endeavor. It informs us, the other, and informs the not yet. The next one is to work with others by choice. This is also another self-explanatory note, which we tend to forget about open design and open source. And the last one is to improve my toolbox. Tools are powerful ways of change. It does imply an use, but it also is open to hacking, to transformation of perspective. However, here it feels important to note the dissociation with the pervasive idea of a tool, of something or someone being exploited. I think the Liberator talked very much about it, and I find that project very, very interesting. So I'd like to start with this, with the class that me and Dasha did. One of our first classes at the Design Academy was with Jesse Howard about open source. Jesse is an American artist with bachelor degree in mathematics, and another one from the design lab from the Rietveld Academy in Amsterdam. One of his projects researches on appliances that can be manufactured by anyone. He created them having in mind the use of parts that can be either 3D printed or easily bought online, like this toaster. Along with the object itself, Jesse shared a DIY sheet with instructions to gather the necessary parts. If you note parts A and B, for example, he mentions them to be open structure compatible. It was nice to see open structures on your presentation, Robert, by the way. Open structure is a common building.
Can I interrupt you?
Sure, please.
Was it, did I got it right? Was it inspired by the toaster of Thomas Twente? Or no? Did he
The one that Jesse did?
Yeah, because I think why he did the toaster specifically, because the toaster...
the toaster is just along with other ones. He did a blender, he did a coffee maker, he did several ones for kitchen. He focused specifically on kitchen appliances.
Okay.
On his website, he has all of them. I think I pulled the toaster because it became more known, because then I think it was compared to the toaster of Thwaite on an article by Tamar Shafrir.
Okay.
That's why I think you are relating to it, because then the toaster was like the case study, you know, for all these different projects.
Okay.
Yeah.
For those, like, why we referred it, because there was another toaster project by British designer Thomas Twente, and basically what he did, he disassembled the toaster and went to a journey to basically discover how all the parts are made, right? Correct.
Yeah, he went all the way to Africa to get to know where the metal was coming from and all the and then he tried to produce a toaster himself through all of the phases, you know, like getting the raw material and then producing and then casting and trying to do that, and also casting the case as well. It was a very, very, very interesting research.
Yeah, and it worked only once. So he managed to do it, and it turned out to be super, super complicated. Even it seems to be a simple object, but then it worked once, and then it collapsed or something happened.
Right, exactly.
But yeah, it was a statement to show how many resources and efforts it basically takes to make one single toaster. Okay, sorry, go on.
No, don't worry. It's nice that you brought that up, because that was also during the time that everybody was questioning this whole DIY movement. And how deep this went. So he took it like all the way. So he wanted to know exactly how to make the material, while Jesse Howard wanted to empower people to make themselves. You know, he was researching on how to make one from scratch. Jesse went on another route to try to make it available so anyone can do.
Yeah.
Nice. Thank you. Please break me as much as you want. Yeah, you bring a lot of good stuff.
Good.
So it's nice. So you guys probably know about open structure. Open structure is a common building language. I like to focus here, like that. Some people refer to it as a modular grid. I like to refer to it as a language, as a building language. And why do I say that? I say that because if you look into the part as a grid, you tend to be a bit locked in a way that the shapes are also fixed to these specific grids, you know? That's, I think, also a misconception that we have on modular thinking, that we tend to think of modular thinking as a way to try to be able to build so many different variables, but in the end, we tend to be restricted by form, so that the form fits on the modular system. So to go back to open structures, I think it's important I find it more meaningful to call it a language, because then it allows for things like this, you know, things to fit different shapes. Better yet, you can have things like the next slide, if my so you can have organic shapes, you know, that can be it can be then any kind of possibility, but then the only part that you need to be careful is how they join together. You know what I mean? So it's the language, it's how you put phrases together, you know. So this for me, it's very powerful, especially in open design, you know, to create like a common language. This idea of interchangeability, you know, and then to show this to show this further, I bring this project, which is called the Free Universal Construction Kit. I don't know if you guys know this. This also approaches this idea of a common language, where translation pieces were initially created by a non-designer, frustrated father wanting to connect the different types of toys that his children had to construct ideas, like Lego, Mechano, Tinker Toy, and so forth. The parts can be downloaded and 3D printed by anyone. So if you have all of these different, you know, modular toys, you are able to connect them by these parts, you know, so you open up a whole nother possibility. It's like Google Translate, you know, like if I could only speak Portuguese and you guys could only speak Ukrainian, then we would need something in between. So this is what I found meaningful about open design, is that it can create this new connection.
No, it's a great example. I was so frustrated when I was a kid because I had Duplo and Lego and they never connected. So when I it's my favorite actually still.
Yeah, and it's beautiful that it comes from a father, you know, like a non-designer, a guy that is frustrated, like, no, why these toys don't fit together, you know? And then he invited a friend of his, I think, to help 3D model, you know, and then he bought a 3D printer and did it himself. And then he did all of the possible components that you see on your screen now. And now these are all available online for whoever wants. Some are not, again, because some are not necessarily allowed because of copyright. So yeah, so even though they exist there in this chart, they are not open, you know, for you to download and print. Because because you are not legally allowed. So again, this is a topic for discussion later.
Yeah, but also what's important that, as you said, basically the father made it, which is basically the user created the object, which is the straight notion of open design.
And it brings back to this idea of the need, you know, the initial need. That's beautiful about open design. So you come with a need, and then you try to find a set of tools that try to fit this need that you have. And by solving a solution that is very specific to you, it is also extremely meaningful to a lot of people in the world. So when you make it open, you know, it also solves other people's problems. You know, this is a very simple one. I think this is a shared problem with a lot of families. But what I'm trying to say is that the problem you might have might be a problem that some other people have as well.
Yeah, and sorry, I will ask one more question about open structures. In your previous presentation in Wheatfield, you mentioned that Thomas Lemay, he changed something, so he realized that there needs to be something else done, but I didn't really get that part. Did I get it correctly?
Yeah, Thomas went to different stages. I worked with him for a while. Thomas Lemay was the creator of one of the creators of open structures. He made it open, and I thought that he thought that it would become a boom, you know. And then at some point, I think he felt that I don't know how to put it, and I hope I make justice, but I believe he felt somewhat exploited. And that he was not getting, you know, trying to make also his ends meet with that.
Yeah.
And then I think that he's trying to formulate it again. And I don't know at what stage it is at this time, to be honest. but he tried different ways because he had open structure, and he also had another project called Infrastructures, which was a design studio that he worked with projects using the open structures
language
approach. Yeah, exactly. I hope I make justice. He's a really approachable guy. Really nice. If you guys wanna, it would be really nice to talk to.
Yeah, and also a small reference. Why it all came. He was really inspired by a book and a series which is called How Buildings Learn. So when he read it, that served because it's also a reference for Holabuda. But the whole open structures came from the book and from that series. Okay.
Yeah, and that was actually also, if I'm not wrong, also designed at the thought and process research at the Design Academy as well. And he mentions that when he was thinking about it, like he went with a tape, with a ruler, measuring everything around him, you know?
Yeah.
And then absolutely everything. And then he found this 4 centimeter, grid to try to fit all of the things that he saw around. So the idea came from his environment back there to be able to create a language. Yeah. All right. So next project then comes to the same class that we were doing, me and Dasha, where I tried to find alternative ways to approach my hearing problem. I have a 40% deficit on my left ear, and I wanted to try out ways to compensate that. On the left of your screen, there's a pair of speakers that work independently, which allows me to try out 2 sources at the same time. The approach on the right makes use of a vibration speaker, and I was wondering if positioning on my head on a 40% angle, for example, it would compensate my hearing inside my cranium, but it did not solve it at all. But it did create a wide array of sensorial possibilities that I wasn't expecting. This research triggered a wide range of interesting parts for me. And here I would like to say that these are not yet available online. I haven't been able to find a way to do so that I feel comfortable. And I'm okay with that, to be honest. It is still in the back of my mind to do so, but I just haven't been able to fully present it. And then I'm going to talk about it in this next slide as well, of a shared friend in the same class. In the same class, a beloved friend of mine in Dasha, Don Juan Kam, was triggered by the demonstrations taking place in South Korea at the time. So he designed a piece of eye washer that can be connected to common water bottles and help clean one's eyes from tear gas or any other substance. This was modeled by Marco Cagnone, another beloved classmate. The Korean police at the time was spraying demonstrators with a mix of water, tear gas, and a color dye, so some sort of color, to be able to identify the ones they sprayed with. It took him 3 years to make it public, which he did at the end of last year. And in a week, connected by a common friend to a demonstrator in Hong Kong and Chile, went viral and became important to a lot of people. So when I say that, I want to say that, like even if you're a designer, you think about it and you have projects that you have done before, open design is something that, you can always go back to. You don't need to decide whether something is open right now. Like it's also fair and important to say that you should feel comfortable about being open and about being public. I think it's a good exercise for all of us on that matter. Along with the eye washer, Don Juan designed a piece of black cloth with instructions of many possible uses for it, another way to make information openly available. So I continued researching, now focusing on open design. The concept of open design came out using the basic statements of open source, but focusing on digital manufacturing as the means of empowerment. In my research, a reference that struck me was the newly formed company at that time called Open Desk. Also nice to see it in your presentation, Rob. They focus on being a platform where designers can upload ideas that use CNC routers for manufacturing. When placing an order on their website, this is sent to a local manufacturer listed in their database. So sorry. and there they do, who then send you a proper quote for what you need. These quotes vary a lot, but the system is a great alternative to decentralized manufacturing and allowing small companies to be part of the network. They also allow for people to freely download the CAD drawings and manufacture themselves if it is meant for non-commercial purposes. OpenDesk claimed at that time that they charge 20% of the quote to cover for their expenses and the fee for the designer. When I received the quotes, I noticed they were actually taking 38%, and that intrigued me. But that was only during that moment. I believe they changed it after. The quotes came out very expensive, to be honest, ranging from 400 to 900 euros for the table you see in front of you. Since I do not own a CNC machine, I was wondering if I could manufacture it by hand. So I printed the drawings in an A4 format and temporarily glued them to a wood board. Just a very simple exercise. And cut the parts using a reciprocal saw. In the end, everything cost me 45 euros. And you can see the parts here. I'm not saying this is not a good concept. I was just turned down by the cost of such simple furniture. There seems to have something odd to this, like decentralizing middlemen, but not removing them. The decentralization does allow for a more spread out distribution of resources, but it still implicated a lot of markup on it. And it still left space for the so-called market to dictate it. I'm a bit uneasy with this. So this is also important about open design and being open, you know, what kind of network, you guys mentioned about suppliers, and what kind of involvement you want to propose with these suppliers as well.
My question, what kind of feedback did you get? Because I also remember your feedback was also not really positive as a project, because it was Diogo's project also during like a year of study in Design Academy. I don't really, do you remember what was the feedback?
I don't remember exactly. I thought they were more interested what I was going to do with that information. But for me, it was more about the research itself, you know, and what to discover through doing this exercise. I didn't mean to point a finger on OpenDesk. That was not my idea. But I just wanted to question, you know, what they were trying to propose and what would be meaningful to also focus. So when I was doing research, I also wanted to understand what are the gaps and what are the situations that I could, you know, like I could focus maybe or see potential with. So by doing this exercise, it allowed me to see all of this structure.
No, but also even the experience on its own. How can you actually, what do you do if you don't have a CNC? And is it actually even possible to do it, just to know, you know? Because if you know, okay, yes, I can, then it opens you a whole new niche and a whole door in your head and like a range of new possibilities. So that for me was a beautiful act of doing it even.
Yeah, because if I remember correctly, it was also during that time that they were crowdfunding like a hand guided router that would, you know, like that would align itself. And I think now it's open. I think it's called Vulkan. So there was a possibility in the future of you owning like a very precise router that you could do it on yourself. So I was just wondering, you know, like what would be the next step as well if that machine was here. And I would love to look into further on that. But another part of their OpenDesk is that they had a place. I don't think they have it anymore. They had a blog for everybody to upload designs and ideas, you know.
And then they removed it, right? Or
I think so. And then people would vote, you know, into the designs to see which ones they would then allow for the company to be in the platform. And I was curious about, you know, like about this project. I don't know if you guys recognize it, but this is a table by Enzo Mari. But it's all made of like just straight planks, you know, that you can buy in any building store, and you only planks, a hammer, and a nail, and you can make it. And I was just like triggered to see, okay, if I upload this design, would people think this is about for CNC or not? You know, it makes no sense for doing this design in CNC. But it would people vote for it, and then would the system allow for that to happen? You know, like what kind of questioning that would bring. So I was more triggered into trying to create a discussion, you know, and trying to create dialogue in this open design approach rather than pointing a finger.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. And they never replied to me on this table, to be honest. But
did you ask them personally? So you kind of uploaded it and you said how it is. Okay, this is a table of Enzo Mari. Is it possible?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
and they never responded.
They never replied to my email. No. Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know if you guys know Enzo Mari. He's an Italian artist and furniture designer who, in 1974, designed a series of furniture for a household that could be built using only available planks and nails. So he's holding all of the scale models of the furniture he made. And then he published a book with his designs in which anyone could replicate his ideas. So that here are, you know, like the main components. On the bottom there, you see the table of parts that you need, and that's it. You know, like super direct, super straight and honest. Here is the very man himself doing one of his chairs. I'm not so, and this is very empowering in my perspective. You know, like when you give this, you know, you publish something that for people to do it themselves, especially in 1974. On my further research, I actually realized that there used to be books since the 1920s that you could buy that would teach you how to make your own furniture, you know? And then it's funny that, and this I find it extremely empowering. I think that we think that a DIY movement is something new, but it's actually extremely old, you know? So it's nice to see back how people relate to that. And then one example that can illustrate this empowerment is a project from Berlin called Kukula. Kukula employs refugees to manufacture Enzo Mari's design. In doing so, they teach them woodworking skills and open up to other possibilities of furniture design. The chairs you see in front of you are from a series called Ambassadors, where they use pine wood and wood elements from refugee boats that have arrived in Lampedusa, the infamous beach in Italy where a lot of the boats ended up coming ashore. So they would go to the beach and find all the scraps of wood and then use the wood in their own design. So giving it some sort of identity. It's like a step, I know, like an extra layer to the cake. Another groundbreaking concept that came in 1974 as well is the one by architect Ken Isaacs. Ken, he's an American, and he created a whole book describing how to build your own living structure. He details instructions on how to pick straight pieces of wood, for example, with designs for all the rooms in the house and children's playgrounds as well. It is super hard to find a physical copy. I've been scavenging, but the scans are readily available online. I would really recommend taking a look on this one. This is super beautiful as well. And this was one of the references for Thomas Lomé open structure.
Yeah.
So he directly derived from Ken Isaac.
It's super relevant nowadays when we're all at home, because what it even says are a way for close people to be close in a single space without getting in each other's hair.
Exactly.
Yeah, I need one actually. Yeah.
That's a good point. So, and another meaningful project on the lines is the one by James Hennessy and Victor Papanek called Nomadic Furniture, with instructions on how to create alternative spaces in furniture. But I think you guys have gone through this, I guess, from the Cube project. I believe this designs as well. This is another one. I find this extremely beautiful. I still want to build one of these for my living room. And in the meantime, I was selected to be one of the coordinators of the Open Design School in Matera, south of Italy. Matera was the cultural capital of Europe in 2019, along with Plovdiv in Bulgaria. In their candidacy bidding book, there was the intention to create the Open Design School, a place that would focus on researching, creating, and producing the hardware of the cultural program, the equipment, the lighting posts, the stages, the exhibition structures, the wayfinding apparatus, and so forth, while under the premises of open design. Matera is like this really, really old town, you know, like I think it's like 10,000 years old. It's one of the oldest towns in Europe. And what you see in the photo is just 10% of the town, because everything is like digged into caves and tunnels. It's an extremely, extremely beautiful place. If you ever have a chance, I really recommend visiting. So we put together a manual with the guidelines of what we wanted the project to have. We wanted it to have an interdisciplinary approach, focusing on learning by doing. We wanted horizontality to be the main common ground. We wanted the sharing of knowledge to be the core of the program as well. And we wanted to approach it with one third approach, which means that 1/3 of the participants would have to be from the region, 1/3 from Italy, and another third from foreigners. This 1/3 approach allows for different scales of perception, you know, and involvement, from the micro to the macro. So you bring different points of view to the same idea, which for me it's something extremely meaningful. It's really beautiful, especially nowadays that we are discussing the connection between being global and being local, you know, at the same time.
It's like a gradient of being related to
Exactly.
a place, from the closer to the further.
Exactly. The first stage of the initial program took part from August to November 2016. In this phase, we started a collective questioning on what open design meant for that region and what a school like this could do for the Sassi. Sassi is the old part of the town where we actually were located. This old part is made of hundreds of caves carved by hand tools, some dating back 9,000 years back. We tried to exercise an open library, so we just shared a lot of books that we had, you know, and we printed a lot of stuff that were available online, so that we made it available so that people from the city could just go and use as well. We had an open kitchen. Kitchen is in Italy extremely important, and I believe food is something extremely important for all collaborative projects. And having an open kitchen when anybody could come and share a meal was something very, very meaningful. We also had open reviews of weekly work, which means every Friday we would open up the doors of our school and present what we did that week to the city, so that they could get involved and we could get feedback from them. You know, I think it was very powerful to have them saying what they liked and what they didn't like. It's not that we signed down, you know, like that meant validation or not, but this kind of feedback was very useful, you know, to always have somebody coming and questioning and being and us also having to present the work that we were doing there. So open, not just digital, but open on a very physical way as well. We also did field expeditions. We did sound research. We also research on what universal design meant for the Sassi, which is all made of rocks, and so many other topics. The end result of this first stage was presented in Milano Design Week in 2017, in the form of a forum for discussions in the courtyard of an important venue there. So in the end, we actually created a module, a little cube of wood, you know, that then became like our main unit. So after this initial stage of the Open Design School, I was back at the Design Academy, and I was still intrigued by how we relate with open design at that time. So I decided to take use of our lunch break during midterm presentations to propose conversations about some issues that I believe were worth discussing. Taking as reference a recipe from Matera called cialeda, which is based on stale bread made soft with cold water, I set up a salad bar and tables to promote conversations over topics I felt were meaningful. On the right side is the salad bar, on the left all the tables with the placemats. So on the next stage, you see the pieces of paper I've set up so that people would put their plates on top. I printed these pieces of papers to put under the plates with instructions and 6 conversation topics for the participants to talk about, and I asked them to record it with their phones to share it with me. So there were 6 topics, and I'm going to briefly talk about them, but we can also discuss them further later on. I think they are still meaningful. The first one was called forced sharing. Forced sharing questioned the idea of terms and conditions and their hidden catches. I mentioned a project by, on that paper, I mentioned a project by Marco Cagnone, where he created a free Wi-Fi signal that one had to accept his conditions, one being that you would accept getting married to him. The second was called Tool Library. And Tool Library brought into discussion the common sharing of tools within a creative institution and the politics around it. In the United States, in the 70s, for example, a library of tools was normally situated alongside a library of books. One could borrow a book to learn how to make furniture, for example, and borrow the tools necessary to make it. The third one was called Pane di Matera. And Pane di Matera used bread as an example of an open source recipe that we can make ourselves. We can all make bread, and it seems during this Corona pandemic is proving that as well. But in our previous world, we still decided to buy it from other people. And how that does not affect or dissolve the bakery business, for example. So the idea that a recipe being open doesn't necessarily will implode or destroy a business. The fourth topic was called Instructables. Instructables brought questions about parameters of sharing and royalties. If you don't know Instructables, it is a website spun from the MIT Media Lab with over 30 million unique users a month, where you can find instructions on how to make nearly anything. I highly recommend if you haven't been there. The fifth one is called Talking to Strangers, and it addresses the base openness that we have to listening and talking on our constant exercise of being humans. The sixth was called Google, and Google addresses how we learn through search terms, and that we tend not to give credit to meaningful links and references we find there. I often saw students at the Design Academy learning how to handle strange materials from YouTube videos and then claiming their unique approach on their final presentation. These are some examples of the chialetas, of the salads that we created that day. And I have to say that this was a very unsuccessful, experience, because nobody shared their conversation with me.
Yeah, that's the main problem, always.
Yes. So it's good to point out, because I think open design it's very much about failure. And then we have to be open about it, and then we just
share
have
it
to
as well. Share the
exactly. But I feel that presenting this and presenting this topic is still meaningful, So it doesn't mean that when you present, it might be a failure, but it can be a success at some point. So it's nice to say that. So the Open Design School, again, was given a building, and I was invited to be back in Matera to continue the work on implementing the school. We started with 2 groups. We started with 2 groups, one focusing on mapping the city, the region, and places with potential, and a second focused on starting the research on building a library of parts to be used to construct all the infrastructure necessary. For this second group, we invited Lukas Wegwerf, a German designer working with a specific model of construction based on open structures, to teach us his approach and help us build our initial furniture to this school. This is him over here. And the first group scanned the city and the region, translating the extensive research into an open website where anybody from the institutions to the baker could look into possible places to be activated. This became an extremely important tool for decision making. We also focused again on becoming a hub in the region to bring a multidisciplinary array of prominent figures to come and give talks and workshops. So this, I want to just stop here for a second to give a very meaningful importance to this website, because I have a feeling that perhaps you guys might also be doing this in terms of mapping suppliers and mapping your region, you know, and who participates in your network. And I think that when you do so, if you are able to make these results available online, this will also create connections that you cannot think right now, you know. So if you make this network that you are connecting, that it can be seen for others that are not necessarily related to you, it also germinates in different ways.
Wait, I didn't get it. I'm sorry. So you mean?
No, what I'm trying to say is that we mapped the region, right? We looked into all the possible places that could be used for the cultural program, or that could be used for performances, or that could be used for presentations, or for public gathering, or things like that. At the same time, we mapped some suppliers and some people that were interested in working with the Open Design School. And then we made this public.
Right.
So in the end, after, you know, like now in 2020, we realized that so many connections were made between people that didn't know each other through this website that were not necessarily related to the Open Design School.
I see.
So the mapping and making this mapping public is extremely powerful, you know,
so
in
the
creating
act of sharing it later. So not only keep it for ourselves, but put it, for other people to use.
Yeah. Just something to think about.
Definitely.
So we brought so a lot of people, you know, like really interesting people back down to Matera. And here we have Mario Cresci. He's a famous Italian photographer who has a strong connection with the region. And he brought all his research that he did in the 70s in the region, you know. Matera was known to be the shame of Italy back before the 80s and 90s. So it was nice to see him bringing back this identity to re-signify this shame as well. We were also able to contact Gakutoshi Kojima, an architect that participated in the 1974 competition for the reconstructing of the Sassi in Matera. 1974 is a really special year in my presentation. In our initial research, we found in the basement of the city hall the boards of his submission to this subject, to this project. And then here you can see, I think it's also meaningful for you guys, you know, that he did back in the 1974, all this idea of modularity. And I can share with you, like there are, I think, 17 boards and slides if you guys want. I cannot make it this public, like all of them, because I think it's also still owned by the city of Matera. There are some limitations to it, but I could share for means of education.
Oh, that would be great.
Yeah. And then this, so here's another one, for example, you know, what you I think showed about the containers having different scales depending on how they are put together. Here he used like common scaffolding system to create different situations and different configurations. And then his project was based on an open approach, you know, to the Sassi, making it possible to address a multitude of events through a library of components. It became one of the Open Design School most important reference. And yes, the Open Design School delivered a lot of structures for the cultural agenda of last year. And here we can see we did the workshops. We also focused on giving workshops to the community, like from typography to model making to lighting fixtures to Nomadic Furniture as well. And it's nice to point out that there was a family that went to all of the workshops, and the two daughters and at their teens, whom have never created any objects or worked with their hands, got an electric grill for Christmas last year. So just allowing this to happen brought up passions in people that would never, you know, be connected with this otherwise. And here are some structures that we did. This was a very beautiful exhibition curated by Forma Fantasma. Here is another structure we did. Then in another city as part of an experimentation. This was done in Assis. a city in Italy as well. And it's nice to point out, you know, that that the city of Bad Ischl in Austria, recently chosen to be the cultural capital of Europe in 2024, have contacted the Open Design School, inviting to help set up a similar space there. Also, the city of Riyadh in Saudi Arabia invited the Open Design School to be a partner in helping developing a participatory methodology for more engaged public space. So the school didn't end last year, you know, and then there are ramifications. I think ramifications is one of the most beautiful things of open design or open source.
Yes, so it still goes on, and then it will just adjust to local conditions.
Yeah,
Great.
I think now, at this very moment, the Open Design School is producing face shields for Italian hospitals and doctors.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so using all the structures we had for the current necessity.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Good to know.
So super nice. They're also building a new thing, like a acrylic box that some places are putting, you know, to put on top of somebody's face, so that the doctors can handle the person without having direct contact. So they're trying different designs and different things as well. So it's super nice. It's beautiful that I think one of the best legacies of the Open Design School was that we had a place and all of the machinery that are bought, so that the place and the machinery is there now, you know, so that they never had on that city. So
exactly. And now
what
it's there, they can all use it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Great.
Yeah. So in mid 2018, I left the Open Design School because I needed to go back to finishing my master's studies at the Design Academy. I wanted to promote a school of failure in the master's, an opportunity to open a space for students to question the idea of failure and success within the institution, the Design Academy institution specifically. I think that failure and success seem to be very flexible concepts in open design, as I said. What is failure to one person can be a success to another, or trigger new paths, for example. However, I had some crucial issues with the head of my department, which led me to decide to quit the master. He didn't find it meaningful, and and I also had I had an issue with him that he always asked me to be more Brazilian in my presentations and on my designs. However,
I didn't know that to be more Brazilian.
Yes. But he never engaged in a conversation to try to explain me what he meant to be more Brazilian. And I needed that explanation to be able to make something out of it, you know. Otherwise, I would only be showing something for him, a Belgian person, what he understands as being Brazilian. Yes. So I would be in conformity to colonization, and I didn't want to. So that was one of the reasons why I left the Design Academy, is that I didn't accept the terms of the situation. So yeah. And so I quit the master at that moment. But it was also nice that at the same time, this decision was deeply influenced by an opportunity that was open to me to be part of a group formed by third-year bachelor students at the academy. The collective minor they signed up allowed them space to create a new program. The group shared disappointments with some aspects of the academy and were looking into stepping out of the bubble and practice and exercise something new. I proposed them to go to Matera. I was very fortunate to be invited to be one of their 3 mentors. So here you see the group in one big room in Matera trying to figure out what to do with the program when we were already there. The offense, as we called ourselves, focused on critically addressing all aspects of collaborative and contextual work while defining a shared educational experience. The group created its own body language, their own rules of engagement, their own perception of what education should be about, and mainly how to relate to the context, to the group, and to oneself, all at the same time. To be able to do so, the group was very strict in keeping the structure they all agreed upon, which in a lot of situations meant long hours of discussion and space for everybody's representation. I think it's important to point here that to be able to listen to everybody, it takes time, you know. So this is an important element. Time is an important element to meaningful situations, in my perspective. So here you see some of the pictures we took there during that time. And Offense was such a meaningful project for everyone involved that we are still distilling what it meant for us, rationally and emotionally. I could talk for hours about it. The part that I would like to specifically share is the website, where the group shared the majority or almost everything of the beauty and troubles that went through. I highly recommend spending some time on it. We also made a zine, which I would have with me if we were meeting physically. It is being sold in some bookstores in Amsterdam. And also, if anybody is interested, I have some copies with me. If you want, I can send it to you. But here I would like to point out that open design, open source or open design is not necessarily about, you know, like for me, it expanded the field not to be necessarily about making something physical, but it can also be making something, making a structure of collaboration and sharing this as well. So that the open design approach in open source, let's say, approach on this project came through this. So everything that we did, all of the structures that we did for meetings, all of the, you know, all of the assignments, everything we had, everything is online for anybody to look into and see if it's meaningful for anybody. And my presentation ends here, but it ends with this project by Salvatore Iaconesi and Oriana Persico, which became even more meaningful now than when I presented the first time last year. I will let Salvatore explain himself in a 10-minute TED Talk. I would love to ask if you guys think this is meaningful to share a video with you. It's a 10-minute video, or if I send a link and you can look at it later.
Well, I would definitely say yes, because then we can also discuss it later. But if someone is against, you can just say. Okay, no one. So let's just see it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me. Oops. I'll share another screen here for a second. Can you see an X on your screen? No.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. It sound good?
No, there's no sound.
No? Ah, really? How do I do this then? Ah, shit. I don't think I can share the sound, I guess. Wow.
But why? I mean, you just like opened it in YouTube, right?
Yeah, but I think because the mic and I'm hearing it through my headphone, you know, so you're not getting the audio.
Okay, and if you remove the headphones, maybe it works.
Good, thank you, Dasha. Let me see
Let's
if there
try.
will be. Yeah, sorry, nothing new with Zoom.
It works.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, your voice works.
Okay, can you hear him?
Yeah.
Okay, let me start again then. Sorry for that.
No worries.
So this is my brain cancer. Even in France. When you are diagnosed with when you are diagnosed with cancer, you are officially declared a patient. You are diseased, and your life changes. Your life really does change. Your life becomes a procedure. So you go through several very defined steps. You go to a doctor, and if you don't see this, my voice trembles, please tolerate it. You take an appointment to have a surgery, then they take the tumor body, and then they have some exams on the tissue which they pick up of your body, and they decide if you have to have chemotherapy, radiotherapy, or some other treatment. Okay, but in some way, in front of this very standard procedure, another thing happens. In a way, you cease to exist because you become a patient. In more than one way, you're not a human being anymore. Okay, so in some way, you are replaced by your clinical record, and those records, yes, they're talking about you, but they're not really talking about you, meaning that they talk about some of your body parameters, they are images of your body, but their language is really, really different than the language of human beings. As a human being, you really disappear a bit, okay? Because those clinical records are made to be looked by doctors, by technicians, by professionals, and that's very important, of course. But that's not the whole story. Because as a human being, not a patient, you are left with lots of questions. Huh? Now I'm a patient, what happens? Can I study? Can I have fun? Can I be creative? Can I make love? Can I research? Can I do science? Can I do something? Can I, or is this this situation up to someone else? Or do I have to delegate? Or can I do something for myself? It's a very big question, okay? And actually, medicine doesn't have the answer to this kind of question. Or maybe they have some good sense answers, okay? But they're not really that focal for you. You are a patient, okay? And then, speaking about the specific disease, cancer, it's a very peculiar disease because it has to do with the food you eat, with the environment you live in, with the society you live in, with your life rhythm, with your lifestyle. Someone even says that you yourself, the diseased person, have a lot to do with the fact that you have cancer. Am I really sure that I don't have anything to do with the fact that this thing is growing inside of me? And again, medicine does a very important job, but always, or almost always, luckily there are some really intelligent and human people in medicine, often medicine forgets lots of these things, okay? Forgets, doesn't treat many of these things, doesn't handle or assess many of these things. For medicine, sometimes you are just a fitting part of an equation, okay? You have a disease because you have some symptoms, and there's a diagnosis, and then there's a therapy, okay? You are an equation. But that's not all there is to it, obviously. So I decided to change this situation. What I did is to start from information. Remember at the beginning I said that everything starts at you, human being, disappearing and becoming a patient. And the data which is associated to your body, to the human being, okay, is expressed in very peculiar languages, which are not languages for human beings, are languages for doctors. So what I did is to start from there. I took my clinical records and I transformed them into a very personal version of open data. I put them on the web and I created a thing which I called open source cure. In many cultures, the word cure means lots of different things. The cure can be something medical, can be something psychological, can be something which confronts with the society, with relations. There are many versions across the places of the earth for the word cure. What I did is to disclose my data, my clinical data, and to invite everyone, all society, to participate in my cure. This has had radical results. Let's start from one. In Palermo, just a few days ago, an art collective used the images of my brain tumor as a projection mapping, as big as a building facade. as visuals for their concept. 35 videos have been produced using the images of my tumor. About 600 poems have been written for me and for my condition. About 15,000 testimonies from people who have now or have had my same disease have been sent to me, and we have started a dialogue, very complex dialogue with 15,000 people. Okay, that's really, really important. 60 doctors have contacted me, and we're not speaking. Some articles on the news have said, okay, magicians will come and say, you're healed if you take this plant. No, 60 real doctors with white coats have contacted me offering good, practical, scientific advice, saying, okay, come and see me. Even more, of these 60 doctors, 40 of them spontaneously received reviews from about 500 people, which have been their patients or ex-patients. So doctors reviewed, nice. And about 50,000 different strategies to cure cancer have been sent to me of an enormous variety and types, from official medicine to alternative therapies to magic to esotericism to going on vacation. 50,000. And about 200 people actually helped me, and Oriana, who is my companion, and she's right there with me, helped me to browse through all this information. And as of now, through all this help, I have formed my strategy. And my strategy to confront with cancer is a very peculiar strategy because it's way beyond what classical medicine does. It's a strategy that goes all around the world and across thousands of years of cultures, because it's a strategy which unites harmoniously surgery, oncology, homeopathy, Chinese medicine, Hebraic esotericism, and a radical change in lifestyle and diet. And I said harmoniously, meaning that all the parties involved are informed. And as a nice side note, now my tumor, a 3D replica of my tumor, is on Second Life. And you can have tumor as well, because you can print one on Thingiverse, if you have a 3D printer. No one commiserates me. Fantastic. It's the perfect situation to get healed. No one is sad and everyone does something. And most important of all, everyone involved is really feeling part of a human society, okay? Not having to deal with a patient or a diseased person, human society. This is, I feel, is a good use for technology, and it goes way beyond, you know, the usual discussion on open data, megabytes, megabits, terabytes, etc. Okay, it's real life human technology. And this, for me, is an open cure, but watch out, because also for you is an open cure.
That's crazy.
It is, right?
Yeah.
Let me just.
I feel like I need to explain a bit why I showed this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's for a few reasons. One is that and here I'm gonna talk in a personal way, and I hope it's also meaningful for you guys. But us designers, architects, and creative people nowadays often act as doctors, you know, trying to solve things and trying to bring solutions that we believe are the most meaningful. And I believe that when we talk about communities, when we talk about situations there are for bigger communities, other people, I think it feels that it's extremely important to listen to all possible voices, that are implicated in that situation. So by saying it here, that there are so many different ways, even esoteric or things that we might not believe in, might become meaningful in other circumstances if they're joined with things that are important to us. So this is an example of situation that it goes all the way, and it's way far, super far apart from building a community in a situation that people can create and can make things together. But it does imply a way of thinking that I believe is important, and it seems even more important now with the pandemic. I believe it's important to hear everybody. I think listening is a very important aspect of collaboration, So I believe, I just want to leave this presentation on that note, that listening, for me, it's also about, it's also part of being open. Yeah. But thank you so much for allowing some space for me to present. And I'm
No,
open
but it was a pleasure listening to you.
Thank you, Dasha. You're always kind.
Thank you very much.
Truthful.
Yeah, but because like
okay, so we're yeah, sorry, go on. I'm listening.
No, because I think again, I'm not a specialist on open design, and I think all of you can, are probably way smarter than I am, and you can go and search online and find all the situations. And Dasha, you presented a base, a base presentation on what open design movement is. But for me, I started through this idea of open source and open design, but it became something way more broad than I thought, because for me, it became a way of engaging with the world, engaging with collaboration as well. Yeah. Which I think, which in the end is, I guess, my point, my main point in this presentation, that it goes from different layers in terms of engagement, in terms of participation, in terms of representation, in terms of education as well, and how we do things together. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, for me it started to be really relevant since I went into yoga somehow, and when I went into the studies, and when I with time started to realize how very interconnected we all are, how we all are basically one single thing in the end, and the only way to treat it in terms of design is basically open design. And like step by step, I was so far away from it, as I said in my presentation like 5 years ago, but the more I develop myself, let's call that on spiritual level, the more I come in my practice to the pillars of open design, and this is like really interesting without any forcement on that. So
yeah, I hope that as you presented, also showed on your slides, is that it's becoming so common. Everything is becoming open, right? Like open data, open source, open education, and all this. When something becomes so common, then it becomes, it's not needed anymore. So it's already ingrained in our minds, to
exactly.
be open.
And this is the way to be. I mean,
exactly.
And I feel like even still, like it's still a niche way. I feel like step by step with our evolution, it's becoming more a norm. Just by the way it is. Okay, but if does anyone have
I just wanted to add, and ask you during the discussion if you believe that having things openly accessible and universally distributed, does it kill the individualistic part of it? Because I think it's still possible to feel impersonated and attached to a certain thing that is within this open framework of design. And I would also like to lead it towards the urban design and urban planning, and like open code urban planning and public participation, which is another interesting topic. Like first, please, let's discuss about the individualist attachment towards certain objects and strategies, and then I will ask another question. Thank you.
Right, right. I think, in my perspective, I think we shouldn't force any idea of being open. I think, again, being open is a individual situation as well. You know, first and foremost, like it's up to us to decide how open we want to be. I don't think it's black and white that we decide either we're closed or open. There are different levels of being open. You know. And then first it starts on the individual, and then we start on our group. I guess this small group of you guys working together, you know. And then it will be the second stage, and then you decide together what's meaningful to you. I don't think you need to be. There's no need. There's nothing forcing you to be completely open, you know, and letting everything that you do open and commercially free. I don't think that's also the situation, you know. I don't believe on that because we don't have right now an economy or a situation that allows for you to be like that and still pay your rent, you know. So
not
it is
feel exploited as well.
Exactly. So it's still a negotiation, and it's a negotiation that is very based on locality as well. Even though open design is something sort of global and universal, you still handle to your own community. You make money in your own community, right? And you spend there. So you need to understand how you're going to pay your rent at the end of the month. Absolutely. However, that would be one way of answering that question. There's another way that I'd love to bring this idea of the genius, you know, the individuality, which is something for me that it still brings a lot of discussions within my mind, because I don't necessarily believe in the idea of genius anymore. However, I do believe in something that Brian Eno, the music producer, said and wrote about what he calls the scenius. So it's the genius of the scene, you know. So it's like it's the geniality of a group, not of an individual. So that's what I believe is the most beautiful thing of what I'm seeing right now, is that you guys are a genius group, you know. So you're not claiming on your own names, but you're claiming on a name that represents you, you know, which is Holabuda in this case. So that I believe, because that is something that it's beyond the individual, which also means that we all need to make peace with the idea that this thing is bigger than each one of you. You know, that implies two things: that it is as important to you as you want it to be, but it also implies that it needs to go further without you if needed. You know what I mean? Then it's up to you to decide how you want to relate with this community, with this scene, with this genius he calls. So I think it's a personal negotiation, and it's also a group negotiation. You know. So it does imply very much, the base layer of it is trust. And I believe trust, you know, like you guys seem to have trust within yourselves, you know, and then that you can have this open conversation about the way you want this to happen. That would be my personal approach.
So the language that you were mentioning, the language of not only communication, but just the language of the process of this being, of this synergical kind of creative thing is important also to be understood, I guess, because within the group is kind of clear and we can communicate, but I think it's important to develop some pattern, some language to be understood all around the world, as this video is suggesting, that we should be more open in terms of like this technical aspects and language of terms. So I don't know, maybe you have some advice for us in this.
Yeah, and I would add something to your question. You said to be understood worldwide, but I would even say a bigger challenge is to be understood locally somehow within the let's say local realms of Ukraine and current economies. I guess this is also even a bigger challenge.
That's true.
I believe that that's what I believe. Again, then I go back to tools. You know, the beauty of tools is that there are methodologies there. There are plenty of methodologies there for collaboration, right? But that doesn't mean that you have to follow them to the core line. I think there are tools, and again, they're open for hacking. And this is the beauty of it, is that you guys find your own language. and you don't need to start from scratch. Again, Dasha mentioned that we sit on the shoulders of giants, you know, and we need to remember that we don't need to start from scratch. We can pick, you know, a specific methodology that you want to try to create this new language, or if it doesn't work, you try another. But it's important that you try to make it yours, you know, that through the conversation, through tweaking and hacking it, that then you create yours. And then by doing that, you create something very local and very unique. Then that this will eventually be meaningful to other people as well, you know, that can relate. So this idea that you're always sort of you know, in open design, in open source, you have this term called forking, right? When you have, you know, like you're doing a code and then out of the blue, it goes to another direction, right? It goes to completely something different. So that it's important to allow other situations to come out of what you're trying to do, you know? To also leave it open in a way of that this other things can sprout.
It's like a tree. There is a trunk, but it has lots of branches, and each branch has 10 other branches, and then it just goes and goes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a question. Okay, Nazar has a question.
No, I was just adding to your tree reference that in a way it's also, you know, as a root, but it comes from a different way, from a different root. All this knowledge and all these things that we brought up together comes from different persons, and therefore it kind of builds up one strong stem.
I don't know if I understood you correctly because your audio was a bit mixed, but I understand.
Horrible, actually, I didn't get a single word.
Well, I don't know what's happening over there. But I think you mentioned that. If I understood correctly, you meant that it comes also through different routes, but that we are also able to connect different routes together. Is that what you meant?
Yeah. That it not only spreads the common knowledge, but actually it also brings up the different perceptions and the different origins that this knowledge came to.
I think this is beautiful, and then to look back into, for example, I love to use, you know, examples that we have on a daily life. Like bread for me is a beautiful thing, and to see now, you know, like you see now online, like so many people doing bread in their houses, and it's so beautiful. But that they're like, some people are picking recipes from one culture, and then they pick another recipe from another culture, and they're mixing and they're trying to see what's coming up, you know. That exemplifies this, you know, like this open knowledge that you mix together and then you create something new. You know what I mean? So it comes from different roots and different ways. Sorry, Nazar.
Yeah, and beauty with the bread references, I think, is that actually the amount of knowledge and the amount of techniques that is already there that we can build upon is so huge that it's something, as you said, that the open design will become. We just don't notice it because it just is. We're like on the common ground with this knowledge that it is there, and then it's only when you start digging for it and like, or the situation puts you in the position where you're looking for it, then you kind of discover the whole baggage.
Right. And I think to say something extra to this, I think that this idea that it's also overwhelming sometimes, you know. Overwhelming, I mean, like sometimes we look online and there's so much stuff, you know, and you feel like you have to go through all of this stuff, otherwise you're missing out on something, you know. Because there's so much information. Open design produces so much information and so much great stuff, you know, that it can be suffocating sometimes, you know. I think it's important to also take it easy, you know, and then maybe you find a few things and then you try, and then just not to be so much pressure on yourself, you know, to try to cover everything, you know, together at the same time. I don't think that is necessarily healthy.
Yeah, to filter it. I wonder how it will look like after this pandemic, because what I see, what is happening now, like everyone is sharing their recipes, you know, everyone is, this DIY movement started because suddenly everyone started to have time, and now people are growing, gardening, and they also share that. So yeah, it's happening. I really wonder what would happen when it finishes, because it would give a totally new boost to it somehow.
I believe that goes back to what you guys are doing. In my perspective, is that it will be very meaningful to have hubs. And I feel like you guys are creating a hub, you know, so a place where people can go, and that all this information from this community will be compiled as well. You know, otherwise it's sort of lost on the network, and it's really hard to find them. So that's what's important. These hubs, you know, like small or huge, but the hubs are very important because that's where they congregate all of this knowledge.
Of the meaning also, because once there is so much content that is being vastly distributed, like it loses its meaning and sense. And I think,
right,
yeah, maybe people would be talking about the same thing that we do, but for us it makes our own sense within this hub, right? So it's the same.
Exactly. You know, and again, how can I say this, not to sound paternalistic, but it's like it's up to you guys to decide what's a successful and what's a failure for you. You know, nobody else. You know what I mean? It's what's meaningful for you guys, not what's meaningful for me. You know, like I live in the Netherlands. I'm not related to that. You know, it's what's meaningful for you and the community. And that the only ones that can answer what's that, it's you guys, right? And the community. So it's up to you to make that decision, to make that filtering.
I have another question. So, open education. You're really interested in what is open. When does education become open? Where is this red line between for you personally, through your experience and through your, and it can change each day, your answer, but
I don't
maybe
necessarily
from an example.
Yeah, I don't necessarily know exactly what open education is. I think it's a very loose term being used, and I don't necessarily know. I think that it is extremely important to share methodologies. You know, if we go back to like that that if you have proven, let's say, quote unquote, if you have exercised a specific methodology, a specific way of doing things, a specific way of approaching education, and it has proven through your own experience that that was good for you, you know, that was meaningful, and that you share. And then, and by sharing that, people can also look at it and try that out as well. By trying that out, it might not be meaningful to them and to their context, but then they might be forced, you know, like to adjust. And then by adjusting, then you create another methodology, let's say. So open education is something that can be hard to grasp. Yeah. But for me, it goes back, the way I understand is like to be open about methodologies, to be able to be open about approaches, you know, that can be relevant. Yeah. I don't know about we can talk about the whole thing about online learning, you know, and all these hubs of teaching online and all this, which is super great. But I don't know if that's necessarily open education, you know, that's also open knowledge.
It's limited to that, let's put it that way. Yeah.
Sorry?
If it's limited to that, I mean.
Yeah. I think to be able to discuss education, and again, the education has been something I got into in the past 2-3 years, so I'm fairly new on that. And for me, it feels like everybody talks about education, but everybody has a different idea of what education is. So education is such a big word, you know, that sometimes it's hard to talk about it if we are not specific to specific cases, specific situations. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, because a lot of people, when they talk about education, they are referring to kids, you know, to like 5 years old, 10 years old. You know, when I talk about education, I talk about higher education, but I need to be more precise, you know, but people don't tend not to say that. So, and the ideas and the references are very mixed then, yeah.
No, it's true. I have actually the same with school. Whenever I say school, people get reactions like, no school. We don't want to learn anymore. Like, we want to have fun or talk. But then for me, school is something, like the whole life is school. Basically, it can be the same thing.
I'm with you on that. Yes.
I guess we want our project to also be educative and school like, I guess, somehow, because I actually brought up this topic a bit before about open urban design and participatory strategies and collaboration between the public and authorities and professionals, which interests me a lot. Also, Nastya, who is present here, is really into the topic, and I don't know if you maybe have some reference projects, or what do you think in general about having this open call for designing the public space that is so collective, that is even beyond a certain community, that people from other cities come and visit, and it represents a certain group of people. It has so much meaning, this public, even just design, even public furniture in the streets and everything, and the way you organize streets and urbanscape. So I don't know what you're thinking about this direction.
For me, the most meaningful projects in terms of urban design that I've seen have started from listening to the people that actually use it, so like to be able to see what they want, and then to see what they want, like what they aspire that place to be.
It's
not that you're gonna sorry,
it's a basic actually I think, to listen the community and to make for community and with community.
We call it basic, but it's by far not the approach of of how projects are normally handled, right?
And that's really well.
Yeah, that goes back to this idea of top down, like of hierarchy in terms of project. Yeah, so I'm gonna reference again horizontality, so that everybody has the same voice, the same weight in their voices, and that because that creates participation, that creates engagement, that creates relationality, right? And then people feel like they belong and they own
responsible
this space.
also.
Yeah, exactly. So they take care of it as well. So the most meaningful projects are not necessarily the most beautiful in terms of aesthetical terms, but for me the most meaningful are the ones that people are actually using, in a daily basis, and they feel like that is an extension of their houses, or that's a communal space that they share. So my approach would be to start from there, and I believe this will become even more meaningful now after the pandemic.
We actually agreed that the educational part of it is essential, because in some communities, in some situations, people simply don't understand how to behave in such situations, and when they're even asked to present their needs and worries and everything, they don't know how to act. And it's also a problem of language that urban planners use and maybe authorities use, that is not really easy. So I think for us it's really important, because we do imagine a modular structure or some grid pattern or whatever we design to be forming urban escape, and I think it's really important to make it inclusive too.
Right.
And
right.
Well, I think we do need our own methodology, our own language for that, because like there are certain things that exist now, and we did research some this map in France that Nastya showed me. She can also tell you about it.
Yeah, I think communication is one of the key elements on everything, and for me it's becoming even more now that I'm studying education. My background is also on design, on social design. I had a lot, I've been involved in a lot of social projects. I worked inside a prison in Brazil for 8 years, with Indians in Brazil, and with other projects as well, community projects. And I found that I made a lot of mistakes. I failed a lot, thinking that I came using a language that was common to me, but not common to the people that I wanted to talk to, And then I pushed them away instead of trying to, but my intention was to bring them closer. So I think that even if we have the best intentions, we sometimes communicate not in the most positive way. So communication it's very key to get involvement in social projects, at least from my experience. It's very important to look into. And in education even more.
Speak the main language with your users.
Pardon?
I think you should always speak the main language with the users.
What you said, main language? I didn't understand.
Main language. Same.
Yeah, absolutely. But language, it's so nuanced, it's communication, it's so complex that even that sometimes we are having the best intentions, we might sound, again, paternalistic, or we might sound exclusive, how to say exclusive, putting people aside, even though you want to do the opposite, just by the way you present yourself, or the way you use specific words, or the way you're positioned in terms of the other and all these things. So for me, it's become even more and more important because of education, because education needs this engagement, to be meaningful, and then, to try to break these rules. So it is important to pay attention on that. I believe very important.
Yeah, I would like to add something, like communication is super important, and it goes back to this human-centered design approach, but I guess nowadays we shouldn't also forget about non-human entities, and I guess nowadays we should really think and we should give the same accent not only about how to find common language between humans, but we should also find ways of communication, of asking of all the non-humans, and it's actually the only way how I guess we should move. So I guess it also deserves attention, and also is really important to talk when talking about education and open design education.
Hey, if you go back to urban planning, then it takes a whole nother level, right? Because then you listen to the more than humans as well, not just the humans, and see what's being needed on that specific locality.
So, and I guess really nowadays we need to make this one step further. So you said it's not really obvious for everyone. It's like basic for us, but I would say nowadays we need to really also implement and find ways to talk with non-humans. I don't know, like interviewing animals or I don't know.
The economy is a non-human thing that you should analyze and understand, and an environment, again, as something natural but not human, can be a part of that communication. And it again goes back to education, that some people don't really understand objectively good things that we are trying to do for the environment. Like Andrei presented in the beginning, that the whole aim of Holabuda started from climate change and from the threats to the environment in Kiev. And it can be a really visual language, obvious language, the environment we live in, that also touches on things like patriotism and belonging to certain community and everything. But again, some people in Ukraine simply don't understand how it works and how important it is. So I think without having it all together with education and environmentally friendly strategies and even economic benefits, it's impossible without having it all holistically kind of
right.
It's hard to make it.
Yeah, I don't know how much you guys want to take upon your responsibilities to be the bridge, to try to inform the people that you think do not comprehend, and to try to find ways for them to connect. I'm not participating, it's up to you, but then when you talk all this, there's all this potential as well to be able to create these new bridges, that you think are not connecting, and then how much of all the situation you want to take upon you. I don't think you should take all of it, otherwise it's going to be overwhelming, but it's up to you to choose as well. Yeah.
Depends also on the professionals who join us, because I guess some of them can help.
True.
But in great deal, it's also the whole part of the education for ourselves, because I think even the whole thing started with the ambition to educate people who would like to join, and people who actually just like to think at least about it. I'm not even thinking about that we know or have the solution how to implement any of the changes or answers to the questions or troubles that were pointed out in the beginning. But by all these discussions, well, there is at least a seed that we can now just a bit more, and then with this approach it. I think that is the most important part of education, that is not we projecting that, but also we are receiving it in the first place.
Right. I think when you're talking, it came to me like something that I learned in a design academy that became something very, very transformative for me, is that so I did my design bachelor's in the United States, in industrial design. So I was taught big scale, solution driven, market oriented and all this. And then going to the design academy, it was very, very different. There it's focused on small scale and alternative. So those two things became way more important to me than the American approach. I feel it's super poetic and beautiful to try small things and call them alternatives, not solutions. Because also again, communication and the language. If we call a solution, we are not allowing for another possibility. You know what I mean? If we call alternative, we are still opening space for other things to exist.
Yeah, I agree with it. And I think this is actually, as for designers or urban planner, this is one of the main things that actually stirs people off. Because they think, okay, these guys came and they will make up a drawing. And the drawing is, it is like a conviction. After the drawing is made, the bulldozer is coming, and it's like doing the thing which will not change for the next 50, 20 years. So I think for the question about building a new kind of public space, which is for all the community, it's more about creating this space which has the resiliency to constantly change.
Right. Yeah, because then it goes again. I think you guys are completely aligned, because it goes. Is anybody saying something? It came from you, Nazar.
No.
Okay. Because this idea that if we're talking about small scale, I think you have your audio open, Nazar, and then coming back on your microphone. Well,
I will mute myself again.
Sorry, I don't mean to mute you, but just to make this a bit more clear.
That's an
Okay, but if we're talking about a small scale, small possibilities, and we're talking about alternatives, it's also important to bring that third thing, which is called temporality. Temporality. So you're not designing something to last forever, but you're designing something to last as long as it's meaningful, right? Because then it can change, it can be reformulated. And I believe then, like on your presentations, it was beautiful to see that all of your designs are based on that. They're either based on open structure or modularity, on things like that. That things that can be changed and can be reformulated. If you need something different. So I think the possibility to evolve and the possibility to be open for things to change in the future is a key element. Not to go from what you mentioned, like the drawing and then top down, this is the solution. You do everything on marble and rock, and then you cannot change anything anymore, But the possibility of being able to allow for the space itself to evolve as an entity. If we talk again about the more than human, so the place you are building is an ecosystem, right? Is an entity, is something, is a live being that is going to be in a constant change. Yeah.
The problem with that, when I try to explain it to people, and people who know economics, they tend to argue that long-term investments, something more stable and more, they understand the adaptability and the flexibility as great advantages, yes, but still somehow the market works in a way that people would prefer to invest in something that stands there for longer, which I totally disagree with, and my view on sustainability is actually different than yeah. But still, somehow it's more profitable to build a long-term structure.
Right. But I believe like the market is about to change as well. So maybe we are going into a new moment where these new ideas, you know, more open to modification and open to evolution might be better understood, I think.
We hope so.
I think a great example on where the market is kind of getting it wrong now is if you look on the old houses, or rather like the chalets, you know, that were built first in I don't know, the 13th century, and then 200 years later, someone took the old house and built next to it a small barn, and then 50 years later, something was thrown up and rebuilt, and then in the end, it comes 500 years to our days with 20 different modifications. And none of them was built as to, let's say, from the concrete. They were all either wooden or they were brick. They were easy to take away, to disassemble, to attach. And these are something that are actually, they are they're not market-wise the solution. They are doing well, but they have this resiliency to have the capability of change. That's why, let's say, building from marble or from concrete is then not a very well sold idea, because then it stands for 20 years and then you cannot even utilize it. It's just there. So I think the whole, it's again, the investor or the people for whom you are designing or whoever, they are also kind of this community that you need to communicate in the right way. You need to come for them in the right explanation of what you're doing, of the ambition and of the approach, for them to understand that maybe what they perceive as a classic market value is something else, and you propose a better alternative, the alternative that will actually still work. That's, I think, one thing. And the second is very funny how we as a society constantly talk about the market as it's almost like it's almost a live being. It's an animal. We treat it. We care for it. We're like, the society is really afraid when it's getting sick or plummeting. You know, it became something. It's basically a way we share the commodities, but it became almost as a live being in the public treatment, which is in a way ridiculous.
Yes, it is, but that's how it works. Somehow, I don't know why, but yes.
But I still think it's greatly about how you, even if you design something temporary, but the temporary doesn't mean it will fall apart in 5 years. Things can be just adaptable to last for 50 years, but with different changes brought by it every now and then. And then in the end, in the long run, it will make more economic sense because it will require, for example, less running costs.
And something that can be recycled is definitely more profitable than long-term and unrecyclable. That I think we all understand. But yeah, I think we have to somehow illustrate and communicate the profitability of such strategies. Because simply in Ukraine, many businesses don't adopt these strategies and don't use them yet. And I think it can be a problem.
Yeah, I mean, someone needs to start. It just needs time. I guess it's a matter of 5, maybe 10 years, but yeah.
I think even all this corona crisis will launch the understanding of less capital-invasive projects being more preferable on the high level, because you know, if you reach this crisis, let's say with a big investment to do for a project, then you lose a lot of money. But if your investments are on the smaller scale and are already planned to be on the long run as a several inputs, then you also, as a business, as a developer, you're also more resilient to any kind of crisis or change that's going to come.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but I don't know. You know, like then it gets to a point where I don't know the reality of Ukraine, and I don't have the knowledge to be able to give a meaningful comment on that. But
How is it in Brazil, actually?
The corona? It's the worst place possible. Yes. I think corona is already like a really bad thing, let's say. But our president is very competitive, so he wants to be worse than the corona. It's crazy. It's crazy. I prefer not to mention that. I don't even know where to start. You know, with so many problems. Yeah. At the same time, that I'm idealistic with a very realistic set of feet. So in this situation, for me, it shows a lot of possibilities. You know, I think that economy will change. I think we are going to be more connected community-wise. We're going to be more local. I think I feel that hubs and situations like it feels to me, because I don't have the whole scope of what you guys are doing, but please take it with care what I'm saying. I feel that the hub and what you're trying to propose, it feels that you're also gonna be supplying situations like learning, like public spaces, like events and so forth. That it feels like it would be the government that would be needed, that would have to supply it. You know, so you are doing a service to the community. You are doing a service to the government, and that has a value. That has a very powerful value. And I think that the way we are shifting our mentality, it's going to start to see more. It's going to be easier to show the value of these situations, you know, for community binding, for people coming together and doing some things together. So that is my perspective.
Yeah.
That because the governments are not necessarily doing a good job, or the market it's not financing, investing in situations like this, is that you guys are trying to do it. You know, like people are doing it anyway. That's the beauty of Brazil, is that the government is such a shitty thing that people are taking into their own hands to try to solve the problems. So it creates a lot of alternatives that we didn't have before, and we wouldn't have unless the necessity was there. You know, it's a sad story with a good ending, let's say. But so I don't know what's going to happen next. But if these situations are still there, they are providing a public service. So in theory, they should get money for it. You know, so in theory, you have a value that after that you didn't have before, that you were supplying as a parallel economy. You know, but now it is a main thing. So I think a lot of these perspectives are shifting. I don't know where it's going. Sorry?
So it's a good time to do it, yeah.
I was just going to say that what you just mentioned can be called social capital. It's being explained to me right now by my father, but to my regret, like not many people value this thing. And the whole presence of this interaction and networking is a value by itself. Is not a service or commodity. It is a capital that we can be gaining, and it is meaningful, as you said, but we do hope it's going to be profitable at some point, because it's just, I don't know how to.
Yeah, because I've been reading a lot of people writing about how the corona is a problem to break the tapestry, you know, like of society, you know, like that, why we are apart, that it's sort of like breaking this connection. So that's to go back to what, you know, like the beauty of what you are doing, is that you're going to be very meaningful to put this back together, you know. So if you look it through this eyes, you have a way more power in your hands and a way more value, you know, in your hands than you had before. So I have no idea where it's going, but it feels like this projects like yours are going to be way, way more important in the future than they were
After
before.
Corona, yeah.
Exactly,
So
exactly.
it's really a good time to really push them.
Yeah, exactly. I wish I spoke Ukrainian, but
We can teach you. Well,
I would love to visit.
yeah, actually, for those who don't know, we were planning with Diogo to make a residency in Ukraine. It was supposed to happen already in June, but now it just got postponed until better times.
Hopefully,
is it permanent residence?
Yeah, residency. We were supposed to make it in the Carpathian Mountains. Diogo, do you want to tell a bit about it?
No, you can do it.
Yeah. So it was based on two things. One was Diogo's basically master thesis, because this is your part to tell about it. Then I'll tell my part.
Because I'm interested in sensorial knowledge, you know, and also spiritual knowledge and things that are not rational. And then we were proposing to spend a week or 10 days or 2 weeks in the Carpathians all together with a group of people, and trying to make sense of living together and
explore the senses.
Explore the senses and look at nature in these eyes of more than human, you know, not as exploiting, but trying to listen to nature.
Coming back to what we said before, to figure out these ways how to communicate, how to find ways of communicating not only with humans but with non-humans, and how to use senses with the help of.
Right. It's gonna happen, Dasha.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, time-wise, it's actually time to wrap up bit by bit, and I see that we have 16 most patient participants and listeners still, which is I'm happy. So if anyone has a question to Diogo, this is a great time to do it, or a note or a comment. You
can also write on the chat if you're shy.
Yeah, or what is also possible, I will make a transcript of what is happening, and you can also leave your comments or questions later. And if questions, I think Diogo will be happy to answer them afterwards.
I love to talk, so I can keep on going.
We have one message in the chat which says, I really listened, so I hope it was interesting.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Diogo.
Oh, Oleg, how are you?
Yeah. I miss you.
I miss you too, brother.
It was a pleasure to have some insights into open design and attend this small presentation. So thanks a lot.
Thank you for listening. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it was great having you here.
Yeah.
Okay, then it was Diogo Rinaudi. It was our first open design discussions, and on Thursdays we'll keep on doing it. Diogo, we would be happy to have you anytime around with your expertise and things. I guess many of them will be in English as well, because a lot of our potential guests are English speaking. So yeah, please always feel free to. Thank you from. So in the chat,
Maria.
Everyone sees, right?
Yes.
Maria.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you. Thank you so much for opening this space. I really enjoy it. And if you have any further questions, if I can help you with anything in any way, I'm super open. So yeah, I think I don't know if you guys have my contact or my Facebook, and please, let's do this. We are on this together.
It was a pleasure meeting you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's also great, because one of the goals was that those people who we speak to, then they also become members of this community somehow. Because all this online space is also meant to run on the means of circular design. So what is heard, then it's also used and reused. So nothing goes just in space. So that is the goal. So yeah.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Okay. Then I say in Ukrainian, дякую всім, хто ще залишився і дослухав нас до кінця. Це був Діого Ріналді, ми розмовляли про Open Design Movement. Приєднуйтесь до наших наступних дискусій Holabuda, приєднуйтесь до групи в Фейсбуці, ми будемо вас тримати в курсі всього, що буде надалі. Yeah, then I guess until soon. Thank you.
I hope we all stay healthy and safe and sound and keep on the path. All right.
And stay in touch for sure. Okay. Thank you very much, Diogo, and thank you everyone. Bye bye.
Thank you. Hope you have a great night.
Thank you. Bye.
Ciao. Bye. Bye.
Bye.